this video, I want to talk about this concept of being the eye of the storm in terms of your internal world and your external world. And I really want to link this to the idea of being undisturbed. So every time we are faced with frustrations, events that seem or should seem to kind of upend our emotional equilibrium or derail our day, I really want you to settle in and anchor in this concept of remaining undisturbed. And this is something that I say to myself over and over and over again, no matter what the circumstance is, no matter what chaos is ensuing, taking that deep breath and just stating to the self, I will remain undisturbed. And how this can affect your entire world. It's really, really, truly monumental. So let's look at some examples. Let's say you are facing the dissolution of a relationship and it feels painful. It feels like you're, basically coming unglued, unraveled, something like that. When we can center ourselves and remind ourselves that when we are connected to source, that it doesn't matter what's happening on the external plane, we will remain undisturbed. What this mantra allows you to do, especially when you have deep emotional ties to another individual, it allows you to let go and let God, to remain undisturbed by the seasonal integration and disintegration of energies into your life space, into your field, of experience. And this is something that seems to be so difficult in our sort of third dimensional reality. People, can get so overwhelmed with this feeling of lack of control when energies and people move in and out of their existence, when romantic relationships end, when we feel that somehow somebody leaving our life can signal a sense of unworthiness in us. But this is where this element of remaining undisturbed is so powerful. Oftentimes, there is a higher reason why individuals will move in and out of your life. We cannot see that full spectrum view in this isolated sort of fractured experiential state that we are in. And it's not, I don't mean fractured in the sense that there is something broken in us, but what we have to understand is that we are a tiny little sliver experiencing this reality, a tiny little sliver of the whole. And because we cannot see that full spectrum view, we don't understand all of the elements and all of the wider integrations that are happening in each and every now moment that are really interconnected and directed towards our highest good. And this tethers back into my teaching about being undisturbed, realizing that every rejection is divine protection. When something essentially, or a person, or an environment, a job, a situation, a timeline spits you out, rejects you, basically says, it's no longer in an alignment with your vibrational frequency. This is not a negative. This means that you are leveling up, that you are transforming. And so all of the pieces in that divine matrix, in the quantum field, are realigning themselves to create that next masterful masterpiece of what that next leg of your journey is going to look like. So this is why it's so powerful to remain undisturbed. And another way that I can present this in terms of a lesson is, how many times in your life have you had that, retrospective vision where you look at a situation, 5 years down the road and you go, okay, now all of the pieces add up. I couldn't see it then, but now I understand standing where I am now, how all of these beautiful little elements were interconnected and were actually steering me down the right path. But at the time, it seemed like utter chaos, and it didn't add up and it didn't make sense. And this is part of surrendering, talked about in other lessons, to the divine plan, and surrendering into this element of creating that beautiful anchoring sovereignty within your own being, within your own soul's matrix. And when you become undisturbed, you become extremely powerful in a gentle way. So this isn't about an ego type of power or something where we have to take others over or we have to railroad over others. This is a sovereignty within the self, that you are undisturbed by external events, people, and elements of your reality. Another element that I want to talk about in terms of this concept of remaining undisturbed, it doesn't matter what kind of chaos or trauma or really difficult experiences you are going through. If you can integrate this element of observership, but an undisturbed, very, very grounded nature, you will start to realize that you move through trauma and suffering in a way that is completely transformed. It's not that you don't still recognize the difficulties and the obstacles in trauma and in chaos, but you also have integrated the fact of trust, of faith. This is that divine element or key of that faith. When we reside in faith and when we anchor ourselves into that, we remain undisturbed. So that's why I love this mantra so much. I am always telling myself, if I'm in the middle of something that's really overwhelming in the moment, I just center myself, I take several deep breaths, and I really repeat that over and over to myself, that I am going to remain undisturbed by this, that magic is working in the background, that even though I don't see it from the current vantage point that I'm experiencing it, that this is a lesson, there is a silver lining, and something positive is going to come from whatever is transpiring. And there's two elements to this that are extremely powerful. First of all, you start becoming that transmitter of a signal of positivity. You're almost like this beacon of light in dark times, because again, what you are transmitting, even in the middle of chaos, remember I was saying that concept of being the eye of the storm, that is what you are transmitting, this beautiful, highly charged, highly vibrational, positive energy. And when you are grounding this in, when you are becoming this, when you are becoming this sovereign, stable being, you help others, you help to lift others, which is a beautiful element of being in service to this undisturbed energy. The other thing that you do is you calm your entire aura. So if you have ever dealt with anxiety and emotional turbulence in the moment, when you start to put these things into practice and really hone the internal world into acclimating to this undisturbed state, remember I said, you become extremely powerful. Your mind is clear, your aura is clear, your ability to make solid, really diligent yet purposeful decisions is what ends up coming from this very, very grounded, beautiful, divine energy of, again, being undisturbed. So I'm not going to go, over and over this too much, but it is another piece of really creating that best version of self that I hope that you will integrate into each and every element of your own story. And of course, I have more lessons to come, but this was just a quick one here this morning, wishing you a beautiful rest of your week, and we'll see you in the next lesson.